Today we're in Ecclesiastes 2, and because we're going through this book so quickly, we don't have a lot of time to get into detail. So the main point in this chapter is that neither pleasure, work, nor wisdom can break the cycle of vanity in this life and provide true fulfillment. All those principles we talked about from yesterday, about how life is temporary and life is unpredictable and baffling and broken and unfair and is on a repeat cycle. Solomon here embarks on a quest to see if he can overcome those things and find something in this life that provides him lasting satisfaction and fulfillment. And what he finds is that everything he tried failed. First, he tried pleasure. Now, there are a couple different kinds of pleasures in this life. There are good pleasures, and then there are sinful pleasures. So good pleasures might be listening to music, going for a walk in nature, to enjoy the beautiful scenery, having sex with your spouse, enjoying delicious food, playing with your children, having fun, laughing, enjoying hobbies. And Solomon tried all of the good pleasures of this life and realized life is still vanity. Because if you think about it, even good pleasure in life is only temporary and it never lasts. You go on vacation, but as one writer said, Monday always comes. You enjoy good music, but if you listen to the same song over and over again that first gave you so much pleasure, it becomes played and you don't even want to hear it anymore. If you went to a fancy high-end restaurant with the best food in the world, but you went there every single night, you would get sick of it, because even good pleasure can become boring and unfulfilling and even unpleasurable if you have too much of it. But then, of course, there are sinful pleasures like getting drunk or doing drugs or having sex with as many women as possible. And that kind of pleasure is even more vain, because not only is it temporary too, just like the good pleasure, but also it's accompanied by guilt and shame and maybe even serious consequences in your life that follow from doing things you shouldn't do. So whether it's good pleasure or bad pleasure, none of it satisfies or breaks the cycle of life's vanity. Well, then he turns to work as well in verses 4 through 11, and he engages in all sorts of building projects, houses, vineyards. He's planting gardens. He's got all kinds of slaves working on these projects under him, so he's increasing his power and his dominance and his fame in the world. And he realized that all of the pleasure and all of the fame and all of the satisfaction that he got from his building projects were just empty in the end, because they did not fix any of life's problems that make it so vain. And what's fascinating about verses 4 through 8 is that there are many parallels between this section and the description of the Garden of Eden in Genesis. So essentially, Solomon is trying to make a Garden of Eden paradise here in this life under the sun, and it's just not gonna work. The Garden of Eden paradise was only possible because the curse of sin had not entered the world yet. But now that the world has been cursed, we cannot have the Garden of Eden anymore. And yet this is what people so often do. They build their own little garden of pleasure to find fulfillment and break the curse of vanity in this world, but it's absolutely impossible. And so then he turns in verses 12 through 17 to wisdom. And he says, look, if I'm wise and I actually live God's way, that will make life less vain. And he found out that wasn't true. But it's important to note, Solomon is very pro-wisdom. He says in verse 13, I saw that wisdom excels folly as light excels darkness. In fact, all throughout this book, there are over 10 sections where Solomon is recommending wisdom, because wisdom does make life better. There's no doubt. You don't want to be a fool who's living in sin and stumbling in the darkness and only hurting himself. He recognizes wisdom provides great benefits in life. But the problem is, life is still vanity. No matter how much wisdom you have, life is still temporary, unpredictable, baffling, broken and unfair, and on repeat, even if you have wisdom. And that's why I don't like defining vanity as meaningless and then saying, well, if you have God, well, then you have meaning in your life, because it makes it sound like the vanity of life is something that goes away once you believe in God. But that's not true. If you believe God, if you obey Him, and you give your life to living wisely according to His word, you will absolutely find more meaning in your life, but it does nothing to remove life's vanity the way Solomon is defining it in this book. And so in verses 18 to 23, he comes back to work again. And here's another one of those unpredictable things about life, that you can work your whole life and amass a great inheritance, and then after you die, your inheritance can go to an idiot who doesn't respect it and just blows it all on frivolous things. And it's totally unfair and out of his control. And so work doesn't break the cycle of vanity either. And so many people today try to use their work, their careers, their financial success as a way to find fulfillment in this life and break the curse of vanity. But in the end, they're just going to die, and they can't bring any of the stuff they work so hard for with them. And the people after they're gone may not even appreciate the work that they did. And so it's all just vanity, and it leaves us empty and unfulfilled in the end. And he finishes in verses 24 to 26 with a section about joy and enjoying the good things in life. And the only way that's going to be possible is if we stop trying to find fulfillment in this life, and we stop thinking that we can overcome life's vanity. I love how he describes it in verse 17, that it's striving after wind. If you go outside with a net or a jar and try to capture the wind so you can keep it forever, it's just not going to work. And it's only once you stop trying to capture the wind that you can go outside and enjoy the breeze, because you're not trying to keep the breeze forever, and you're not trying to understand the breeze or control the breeze. You're just accepting life the way it is, with all of its tragic unfairness and brokenness, so that when the bad things happen, it doesn't crush you. And then when the good things happen, you're set free to fully enjoy them. In verse 26, God has designed it so that only the righteous can truly enjoy this life, because we are finding our fulfillment in Him and not trying to make this life give us what it cannot. But for sinners who reject God, they're doomed to strive for the wind their entire lives, because the wind is all they have. This earthly life under the sun is all they have, so they have to hang on to it, and they have to try to keep it forever and to make it give them lasting satisfaction, and it's just impossible. And so the application for us is to trust Solomon's experiment. He says in verse 12, "What will the man do who will come after the king except what has already been done?" Our problem is we don't believe Solomon's experiment, and we say, no, if I had money like he did, and I had wisdom like he did, and I was a great builder and had a wonderful career, then I would be happy and find lasting satisfaction in this world. And Solomon's telling us, no, there is nothing you can try that I haven't already tried. So trust me when I tell you, stop striving after the wind and find your enjoyment and fulfillment in God. And all of this points to Jesus and should give us a deeper appreciation for Matthew 11:28, when Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Jesus understands we are weary and heavy laden because of the vanity of this life. Because for so many of us, we're trying to find lasting satisfaction here in our work and in our pleasure, both good pleasure and sinful pleasure. And we find that we still have no rest for our souls. And so Jesus' invitation to us is to find our fulfillment in Him, so that we'll stop trying to find our fulfillment in this vain life under the sun. And he says, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." Because once we find our fulfillment in Him, then we'll have a lightness of heart that is set free to enjoy the good things in life without forcing those things to be our Savior. And so our prayer today is, Father, help me trust the results of Solomon's experiment, so I don't have to experience the restlessness of the same experiment in my own life, where I'm trying to find satisfaction here apart from You. Instead, Father, help me realize my soul will always be restless until I find my rest in You.